Hello friends. In the previous classes, we have discussed the morphology, anatomy, habitat structure, sporophyte and gametophyte of the Lycopodium. That continue with the reproduction in case of the Lycopodium. The Lycopodium reproduces by vegetatively as well as asexually. They will be reproduces. The vegetative by the formation of gemmae, or it is also called bulbils, and also by the adventitious birds. These adventitious birds are also called resting birds, and also by the fragmentation, and also by the decaying of the mother plant, and also by the root tubers. So these four methods are generally involved in the vegetative reproduction in case of the Lycopodium. So first one, that's the bulbils. So these are the, in case of the Eurostachya, usually they produce the bud-like structure bulbils at the gemmae region, or the axial leaves. They will be capable to reproduce us, and these are usually modified leaves, and usually they are represented by the Lycopodium selago and Lycopodium plagmaria, and each bulb will consist of the short and reduced axis, and the remaining of the plant still in a primordium condition. When they get separate, they can be capable to produce a new plant. And next one is a adventitious birds or the resting birds. Some species Lycopodium selago, Lycopodium reflexum, they will have the adventitious birds that can also help for the vegetative reproduction, and by the fragmentation and the decaying method. So this is the method of proposition. The common creeping species of Lycopodium, they will have this type of reproduction. Usually they have the dichotomous branching, and when the older branch is decaying from that, so it may be possible to produce a new one. That's a fragmentation method. And by the root tubers, so usually adventitious roots in case of the Lycopodium cernum will be producers. This will be help for the asexual reproduction. So sorry, vegetative reproduction. The next going to the asexual reproduction. So usually asexual reproduction in case of the Lycopodium by the spores. There are, all the spores are homosporous in nature. So usually they produce on the adaxial, that's the upper surface, they produce the leaves with the spores. That's why it's called microsporophyll, and that means the usually the leaf with the spores will be present, and these leaf will be help for the protecting the spores. So usually they may sometime the position may be also varies in case, and usually the sporophylls are smaller than the foliage leaves, and usually have the serrate margins and organized strobili. They look like a cone, or it is also called strobilus. And coming to the structure, the sporophyll consists of the sporangium singly and may be exposed to the protect by the frangia-like outer growth, and usually they are sporophylous in nature, and usually they are orange color, and the size is varies. It may be 2 millimeter to 2.5 millimeter in diameter, and this is the structure how the sporophyll will be strong. They consist of the stalk, and the outermost walls will be present, and the tapetum and the central spores will be present, and the stalk bears the curved and cleft shaped reniform, that means the kidney shaped spores will be producing, and usually they are unilocular in nature, and they have the 3 or more layers of the outer wall, that's spore mother cells will be present. When the sporangium matures, the spore cells will be separate out, and each became the spherical, and usually the maturation of the sporangium, all jacket layers expected outer most layer disintegrate, whereas the other outer walls shrink on the drying of the sporangium, lose porous diameter to the air current. That means they will be spread to the air. Coming to the gametophyte, they are haploid spores, and usually the mother cells of the gametophytic generation, they taken by the spores that may be varies. Usually some of the spores will be germinate within 3 years, or it may take up to 8 years for the germination. The coming to the structure of the Prothalis, there is a highly diversification and variations in the Prothalis structure, and usually the Sporophylls is distinguished from the gametophyte, and there are different types of Prothalis, that's a Sternum type, Clavitum type, Plugmeria type, and the intermediate type. The first one is that is a Sternum type. This is found in case of the Lycopodium sternum. Here the basal is colorless portion of the Prothalis buried in the soil. The upper conspicuously irregular lobe leaf with the green part. The sex organs will be present in between these lobes, and usually rhizite is to the lower region, and they are the self nourishing bodies, and usually they are also called generative zones. So next, clavitum type. This is a little bit heart shaped structure, and in case of Lycopodium clavitum this will be present, and Prothalis yellowish brown or colorless. Sometime they may be 12 to 80 meter long. There will be a shapes is also lower conical region and the upper region, and this is how the Lycopodium campanillatum, the Prothalis will be present, and this is distinguished one, and usually they are parenchymatous cells affected with the fungal cells, and usually marginal wisdom. And the next one is a Plugmeria type. This is how the small sized. When compared with the Lycopodium other type of the Prothalis, Plugmeria type is small Prothalis, and usually they are associated with the humus of the branches of the tree. So usually they are highly attached to the substrate, and they are sometimes they are associated with the endophytic fungus, and they are the lead to the fragmentation of the vegetative reproduction also. And the next one is the intermediate type. So this is how actually the majority of the Lycopodium consists of this intermediate type. So usually the recent studies have discovered that this recent type of the spore development, that's the Lycopodium salago, usually present, and even sometimes Lycopodium sternum and clavitum also they may be varies with these structures. And usually beside the more than one type of the Prothalis may be mixed in this type of intermediate type of the Prothalis development. So this is how the structure of the Prothalis. Coming to the sexual reproduction, that's by the gamete process. Usually gamete are monoecious in nature, and usually subterranean Prothali, they produce the Antheridia and the Archegonia. Coming to the structure of the Antheridia, they have the mature Antheridium, usually highly compatible, and they consist of the Prothalis slightly projecting, and usually they consist of the operculum region, and the walls are enclosed with the number of spermatocytes. And this is the structure of the spermatocytes, and they have the biflagellated spermatozoans, and this is the mature structure of the Archegonia, and usually Archegonia is consist of broader, and they consist of ventral canal cells and the neck canal cells, and they have the 3 to 4 layers of the ventral canal cells, and usually neck canal cells 1 to 16 neck canal cells will be present in case of the archegonial cells, and usually venter has the ventral canal cells, and in the center you will find the egg cells. This is the structure of Antheridia and Archegonia. Coming to the fertilization, the Archegonia when they matures, the tip the neck canal cells split apart from the neck canal cells and ventral canal cells. They degenerate to form a mucilaginous substance. These mucilaginous substance consist of the citric acid, and usually chemotactic mechanism, these biflagellated antherozoans are moved inside the archegonian chamber, and they fuses with the egg cells. The diploid spores will be present, and usually they form help in a protocomb structure. So this is how the protocomb structure. This is actually the maturation pre-mature structure of the Lycopodium plant. Usually they consist of the rhizide, tuber, foot, and suspension region, and also the leafy like regions. And usually they are parenchymatous cells will be present, and the lower side you will find the rhizome structure. Coming to the complete life cycle, the center post you will find the that is a plant body, that's a sporophytic region. The sporophyte usually diploid in nature. When they produce the spores, and usually they may be the spore mother cells. Through the meiotic process the spores will be present. These spores are, that's a gametophytic nature, they are haploid in nature. Here when compare with the bryophyte, here there may be a varies. The sporophyte is diploid and gametophyte is haploid in nature. So this is how the mature usually Prothalis, that's archeonia cells will be there, and once the zygote fertilization will be take place and zygote will be formed, that is again diploid in nature, and that will help for the formation of the new plant. So that's why this is the alternate of the generation. So this is the complete life cycle of the Lycopodium cernum. That's usually the plant, whatever the plant is present, that's commonly in case of the Lycopodium what happens. So you can very easily find the mature plant body, that's Antheridia and Archeonia. They fuses to antherozoites will be present. These antherozoites come in contact with the egg cells. The fertilization will be take place. After the fertilization, zygote will be formed. The one zygote form again, that is a diploid in nature. The whatever the previous, that's a gametophytic stage, that is a haploid in nature. So like that, the gametophyte and the sporophyte are alternate with each other. So usually the sporophytic generation is a long duration and the gametophytic generation is a short duration. So this is the complete account on the types of reproduction, that's the vegetative, asexual and the sexual reproduction in case of the Lycopodium, and the sexual reproductive structure, that's the structure of Antheridia and Archegonia, and the life cycle of the Lycopodium. So this is a complete account on the reproduction in case of the Lycopodium. So in the exam, so you maybe have a chances of to explain the structure of the male and female reproductive structure, that's Antheridia and the Archegonia structure will be asking, and explain the vegetative reproduction, that may be asked for 3 marks, that's chances is there, or even they may be asked to explain the sexual reproduction in case of the Lycopodium, or simply they can ask to explain the generation, that's a sporophytic generation or maybe a gametophytic generation for the 3 marks. So that is the complete life cycle of the Lycopodium. I hope you will get the concept. So if you have a doubt, so you can clarify with the next discussion. Thank you.